Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength, and welcome to my home gym. Okay, so we'll start the tour with, I guess, my barbells here. So I think probably most people are familiar with, at least they've probably seen most of these barbells around, but I certainly have my preferences and I have my recommendations for most people when they're starting their home gym, or if they're looking to get maybe a little bit more expensive, with their selections. But still, I think we can come up with some really good options. So just the barbells in order, the top one is the Eleiko. I think I'm pretty sure I have the competition bar. They have a training bar as well. Maybe I'll come back to that distinction because it might matter. This is just the Rogue Ohio Power Bar. That's my favorite bar, but I'll address that in a second. This is the, what is this one? This is the weightlifting bar, women's weightlifting bar. I'm training with my girlfriend here in the garage, so I'll talk about a lot of her stuff. But all the stuff from Rogue is probably a really, really good choice. We talked a good bit about the Eleiko bars versus this one. I guess I can see what it actually is. The Rogue Brazos bar. This one I think she's incredibly happy with, and ultimately she likes this bar probably for the same reasons why I like my Ohio Power Bar more than the Eleiko. Is I think that the Knurl is a little bit more forgiving, kind of comfortable in a training setting, still very, very high quality, but there's also some other things like with warranty and things like that are probably a better option for most people. Even if the price were the same, I think she would probably end up choosing this bar again. So maybe a useful tidbit you didn't expect from me here today. But this is the Elite FTS safety squat bar. For sure, it's my favorite safety squat bar. The Rogue one I used to have up at Brazos Valley Barbell, those are horrible. They're just the worst things ever. The Elite FTS safety squat bar has significantly better padding. I don't know anything really, I've never used the Titan safety squat bar, but from everything I know about them, it's pretty much the exact same thing. So I think you could go probably either way with them. Obviously there's like a transformer bar. I have clients who use that one. It just seems too pricey, and this one ends up being a better option, I think, for most people. So Duffalo bar right here. Honestly, this is one of the bars I just don't really tend to use. I took it from the gym with, to have options for my training in general. I think it can be a useful tool for sometimes people can be more comfortable using it for squatting. I've kind of found the opposite with myself. The bend kind of puts my arms in a position I don't really like. Obviously there's extra range of motion with bench press, but I already have super long range of motion, so I don't really get a whole lot out of that, but maybe I'll use it here one day. And the final bar is the Rogue multi-grip bar. Sometimes people call this a football bar. I think it's a fine option. Again, it was kind of just an extra bar that was up at the gym. We had two of them up there. So I took this one with me, and I try to train with it sometimes, like for floor press, things like that. But ultimately at this point, it ends up just being a little bit more decorative. So as far as the barbells go, probably the biggest difference I think we can talk about is between the Eleiko competition bar and my Rogue Ohio Power Bar. The biggest difference to me is purely just on the Knurl. I think in a competition setting, the Eleiko is very, very nice. I think it grips in your hands, grips on your back very well. But just for standard training, it has been too much for me. My hands even get beat up squatting. If I'm doing a whole lot of sets squatting, my hands can get really torn up even just from that. My back gets torn up. Deadlifting, it was creating some issues for me where I felt like I was having inconsistent training because the Knurl was so aggressive. And actually on top of that, that's something probably you should take into consideration training in a garage environment. You're not always going to have perfect humidity. It may be more humid in the garage than in other circumstances. And for me, I felt like having a very aggressively knurled bar was doing more harm than good. If it was humid and my hands were kind of sweaty, slipping, there was just humidity in general, the bar wasn't gripping into my hands enough, and instead it just felt like it was shredding me more. So ultimately, I've moved away from the Eleiko. Maybe I'll use it again if there's a competition coming up I know is gonna use it, but the Rogue Ohio Power Bar is a third of the price, has a lifetime warranty on it, and has been really, really effective for me. No difference in feel whatsoever. So for sure, if you're purchasing a barbell, that's the one I would go with. So if you've followed my training any amount of time, you'll see that even when I was at Brazos Valley Barbell, I had options to train in competition racks, and I pretty much always trained in power racks even when I had the availability. And when I came over here, I deliberately chose to maintain a power rack instead of the more, I guess, competition specific racks for powerlifting. And that was for sure a choice. It wasn't something that happened by accident. I strongly feel that power racks are better for most people overall, especially if you're training in a home gym environment. The main thing is that they're gonna have a whole lot more versatility, give you a whole lot more options for accessories. Safety is obviously a big factor, but just generally probably a better fit for most home gyms. The competition racks for sure can be nice, but I do think that they limit your options for really what you can do. So my rack is from Rogue. Most things in here are gonna be from Rogue. They make really good quality stuff. Unfortunately, this rack, I don't think they make anymore. It's one of their Infinity series racks. I think that for a power rack, the Infinity series, the Infinity would be the 3" by 1" frame. I think this one is absolutely perfect for a single person using the gym. The difference between this one and a monster rack being a 3x3 frame is really just how much they're gonna move around, how much give you have in the rack. From my experience, this one is going to be a whole lot better for one person training, mostly about clearance on the barbells here. So as they get wider, especially if I'm doing a heavy squat or something, I already sometimes have trouble walking in the squats. It just makes it that much more difficult. So this one actually matches the size of the competition combo racks a little bit more closely. The spacing works better. I don't know that you can get these racks anymore, but this is what I would definitely prefer if you have that option. But some other important things, I do think that the multiple frames on the rack, the 3 uprights, helps significantly with things like plate storage and those kind of things, which really, really helps in a home gym environment. Actually having options like that makes a really, really big difference for being able to save room for other things around the gym. So a few of the things that I can add, I have added to my power rack to really help out with space saving and really just making it my own. I prefer, you can see I have 2 different J hooks here, just the regular Rogue J hooks. And these are from the Ghost Strong equipment right here. These have gotten pretty popular. I bought these because I was kind of in between hole placements with the regular J hooks, and I just thought it might lower it down a little bit. Turned out I really don't like these for squatting. I don't like having the bar at the front of the rack. I want to kind of push it in, be aggressive. For bench press, these are a very, very good option. They're kind of pricey. I think last time I saw they were, I don't know, $400 or something. So for the price, it's probably not worth it for most people. But again, you know, having options is a really, really nice thing about a power rack versus with a competition rack, you really may not have some of those things. On the note of safety, a lot more options like these straps for, I use these for squats primarily. I haven't missed a squat in a while, but if I did, it would probably save my bar from getting too beat up on these. But then just the regular J or just the regular spotter arms, again from Rogue, I think are a really, really good tool. Like for bench press, I can be a little bit more precise for what I want with those. But anyway, the power rack obviously has more options for plate storage, things like chin-ups and all of that. You can actually, most places now, like Rogue has options that you can add in some pulley systems. So really just space saving if you don't have all of the space like we do around here. So certainly if you're looking to get into a home gym, I think the power rack with the 3 uprights is the way to go. My girlfriend, however, actually ended up getting a wall mount. I was sort of skeptical about how nice they were gonna be, the space saving capacity, the stability, all of that. It has turned out to be a really, really good rack. We'll show some footage of how the rack really works, but incredibly easy to open and close. No difficulty for me or her on her own. There's no problems there at all. Really, really stable. I think if you're training somewhere that you actually want to park your car in the garage, one of these foldable rogue racks, I would wholeheartedly recommend. So if you have the space for it, I would definitely go with a big power rack. If not, I think the wall mount also works very, very well. Okay, and obviously the power rack does need to be bolted down so it's not moving all over the place, adding stability. You need a platform for deadlifts. I think people think that platforms are a whole lot more complicated to build than they really are. Ultimately for these, and as well, we'll show my girlfriend's weightlifting platform, it's essentially the same thing for everything. There's gonna be some leveling involved, and I can definitely help with that. I think that there's complicated videos on how to level. We just bought some little plywood squares. I'll show you those. But ultimately what these platforms are, these are divided right here between the 2 of them. The deadlift platform is literally just 3 pieces of plywood put on top of each other, screwed together. There's rubber on top. The carpet is a new addition. If you are a sumo deadlifter, I think that the carpet is one of the best things that you can add. Obviously, it gets beat up a little bit. It's not a super expensive thing to replace. I think that it doesn't matter a whole lot with the carpet getting beat up where the plates are, but having the option of creating a little bit more stability, less slippage with your feet has helped me a whole lot. But anyway, for the bigger platforms, if you're building the big, I guess it's 8x8 platforms, it's just 2 pieces of plywood, I guess 6 total, but 2 pieces of plywood alternating positions, stacked on top of each other, screwed together, rubber on top, you're good to go. From there, you can bolt the rack into that plywood and it holds very, very well. So the thing that you do have to mess with a little bit is going to be the leveling. So I'll show you what I used to kind of manipulate it, but you can just go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever kind of wood store you got. And I bought these, I think they're 1x1 squares of maybe 2x2, doesn't really matter, but very, very thin pieces of plywood, because most garages have a slight slope towards the front of the garage, keep water from running up or whatever. So pretty much everyone is going to have to worry about this a little bit. So generally speaking, you can buy a bunch of them, return them if you don't use them, but at the far end, just laying out 1 or 2 rows and then a little bit on the way in, and then just working your way up. So on the far side over here, we basically have none, and then it's just a slight slant with those. And so we would just put down the first 2 platforms, first 2 pieces of plywood, and then get a level, see how it's looking. If we need to add a little bit more, pick them up, throw another little thin piece of plywood underneath right there, and we just kind of built it up with that perfectly. Once we're happy with the levelness of it, then we put the other pieces on top, put it down, you're good to go. So accessory options are probably one of the biggest areas that home gyms generally lack for most people. Obviously, there's a cost associated with that sometimes people aren't willing to invest. But for me, having at least some accessory options makes all the difference in the world. And genuinely, my recommendation is that if your home gym is just going to be a rack and a barbell, I think that can be good. It can be time saving at times. But for you to fully train out of your home gym, I genuinely think you're gonna need some more options. So obviously, I have a ton of options. I'll talk about the stuff that I think is the best, stuff that I would definitely buy again, stuff I might skip, and then some things that maybe you can add if you have the space or the budget for it. So this wall is a nice storage wall, highlights all of my different accessory handles, mostly backwork right here. These handles are the newer ones I've gotten. These are all from Prime Fitness. Probably see them in a lot of my videos now. I love these. These are significantly better than these are the Maximum Advantage grips. These are a good budget option. They feel very, very comfortable. But as far as actual feel and kind of flow of the movement, the Prime grips are much better to me. The issue is that they take up more space. They require a little bit more distance. I have a lot of footage, I guess, of me using these now, and I figured out ways to do things like chest supported rows and lat pull downs with my cable tower that I'll show here in a second. But figuring out that has made a huge difference in my enjoyment of the exercises. Now, if you don't want to mess with all that kind of stuff, changing equipment around and everything, then the Maximum Advantage grips I think are a very, very good option. They just aren't quite as versatile. But before I had the Prime stuff, I would have recommended those wholeheartedly. But this storage right here is really easy. It's just a pegboard it's just anchored to the wall and a couple of spots right here. It makes it really easy for all the storage. So obviously you want stuff off the floor, and it adds to the appearance of the gym overall. So the back stuff, just accessories in general, some tricep movements like tricep push downs, those kind of things, will make all the difference in the world from you actually going from just being able to squat, bench, and deadlift in your garage to being able to fully train in your garage gym. Now, I'm lucky. I have a ton of other options. I have the belt squat, I have a glute ham raise, bike. We'll show all the little things that I have. But as far as the things that I think are pretty necessary, the one that I would rank the highest is some sort of option to be able to do pulling movements, tricep kind of push down movements. Basically what I'm saying is you need some sort of cable tower. They make options from Rogue now with the ones you can put in your rack, which again, another reason you should have power rack instead of a combo rack. But if you don't have that, or if you have the space for it, you can get a lat tower like I have. Mine was from Titan. It's the plate loaded version. There's definitely some flaws with it. I think it's a little light. It kind of shakes at times. But I have never had any issues with me being able to train as hard as I really want to on that and really have some enjoyment. Now, I would love to upgrade to a Prime, tower or whatever they have, or even the Titan plate-loaded tower. Those things for sure would be very, very nice. But I don't really notice a difference on a day-to-day basis not having that. So this is one area that I do think that choosing the budget-friendly option and being able to give yourself other attachments and things like that you enjoy would probably go a very long way. And if you have the budget for it, yeah, I would recommend actually upgrading, but you already have the plates. There's no reason to spend that extra money, at least initially. Some other things that I have in the gym that are incredibly valuable to me: belt squats. This one, if you followed me any amount of time, you'll know that belt squats, I think, have been one of the big game changers in taking my squat, my performance to the next level. Having good accessory options makes a big difference in leg strength overall. So in this case, the belt squat actually does more. I can do things like the belt squats. I can do rows on it. It just has RDLs. It has many options that I can use this machine for. So if you have the space for it, again, that's great. Rogue has mountable ones inside the rack. There's also ways you can set this up with just like a dip belt in a power rack. So another reason there. So purchasing an actual belt squat machine may not be something that everyone has the space or the budget for, but having, again, the more options that you have to be able to train in your garage, the better. So we just got a glute ham raise that has added some enjoyment for us. The bike is another one that I would rank almost as a necessity. Being able to warm up effectively in the garage makes a big difference for me. If not, I guess I would go for a walk or something like that. But the bike, I think, is one of the best ways to really warm up your quads and get going. But things like the dip bar and landmine row and split squat attachment, all those kind of things are definitely things that you don't necessarily need. But I strongly feel that the more options that you have in your home gym, the better enjoyment that you'll get out of training in the home gym, the more it'll be your space and the more progress you'll actually get. So I touched on this briefly when I was talking about the accessory equipment and all the back accessories that I have for the gym. I think it's a very, very big deal to invest enough in your gym to be able to actually make it feel like a good quality training space and actually your space. One of the biggest mistakes I think that I saw, and maybe it's hard to call it a mistake, but when the coronavirus stuff happened and everyone was going into lockdown and everyone was purchasing home gyms, that was a really, really good thing to keep people training, right? To make sure that people were able to continue to make progress. I have a good number of clients who have home gym stuff that don't train there at all anymore. They had stuff like the squat racks and plates and those kind of things. They could be training more at their home gym than they are. A lot of that is the equipment that they were having to buy was not great, right? It was stuff that they were kind of scrambling to put together. And ultimately, it wasn't really a space that felt really clean and cohesive and put together. And I know for sure with myself, kind of the same situation happened to me. I had a better setup than almost anybody. Eventually I had a power rack, but I had my combo rack. And as I've stated, I don't really love them. But I was kind of putting together a space that was better than the average space, but it still didn't feel like a place that I really wanted to be. I didn't have all the things like the posters, and now we have lights, and just generally making it actually be somewhere I really wanted to train created problems for me in the actual success of my training. And I've seen this with a good number of my clients, is that people put together home gyms because they think it's going to save them time, and then it ends up actually taking away a big part of the competitiveness or just the actual energy that goes into training. If you're somebody who thrives off of actual, people, you're a social person, training alone in your gym may not be a really good thing for you. I found that it really helped me a lot. Originally getting into training, I really liked training alone. That kind of changed when I had the gym. I like training around people, but I've settled back into an environment that I really like. But I also have this setup because of some opportunity. When I sold the gym, I was able to take a lot of stuff with me, and my setup is probably significantly better than what I would have if I had to purchase all this stuff totally on my own. So I don't know that I would have a home gym. I don't know that I would have invested all that money to be able to get it to where I want and to really feel like the training quality is what I want it to be without some of those things kind of leaning in that direction. So I do think that people need to take in personality components into the way that, like, if a home gym is actually going to be for you. I think everyone imagines that the home gym is going to be awesome, but for me, it took a pretty big investment. It took me having things like the belt squat and the cable tower. I would not have been able to train in here if it was just a power rack and a deadlift platform. So I think that those things are definitely things to consider if you're thinking about a home gym. I think that having some options to save time, if it's just a power rack on a day or two, might be worth it for a lot of people, but I think if you're going in, you really need to go for it. And on that note, one of the other things that has pretty much changed the ball game for me is the nice little mini split over here. Obviously, having an air-conditioned gym down in Texas is critical. I would not be able to continually train in this garage. I mean, it's December right now and it's 80 degrees outside. It's not something that I would be able to maintain good training quality without air conditioning. And again, that's another big investment. So those are just things that I think people really need to consider about the quality of their training, and not just kind of an imaginary belief that having a home gym will make you train more often or train harder, because potentially it really, really won't. So hopefully you liked my home gym tour. If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to as many of those as you want with recommendations or whatever you need. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.